The 2022 Big Ten baseball tournament is over and done. NCAA selections have been done. And it's time for us to bury the worst season in University of Nebraska sports history. Obviously, I'm not talking about the women. Because Nebraska women kick ass. The volleyball team is always one of the best in the nation, and they remain so. The women's basketball team had a good season and made the NCAA tourney. The softball team won the Big Ten and were fun to watch, and they made the NCAA tourney. Rifles beats Service Academy. Bowling's always good. So I'm not talking about the women. I'm mostly talking about the three men's sports there because, let's be honest, sports are about feeding male ego. This is John Johnston, Corn Nation. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel because that validates me as a human being. Sports are all about the male ego. They really are. I get it. We can enjoy women's sports, but mostly we're about football. That's who we are. So let's look at the men's sports in question. Football, basketball, and baseball. I know wrestling is out there, and wrestling didn't do bad, but even for them, I think they underachieved probably from where they could have been. But football, let's start there. 3-9 season in Scott Frost's fourth year, last in the Big Ten West. And listen, I know they tied Northwestern. And technically, since they beat them, a tiebreaker would put them ahead of them, but just own it. We were 1-8 in the Big Ten. That's suck. So don't worry about technicalities in this. But fourth year, 3-9, terrible season. And not just the record. The way we lost all of our games was horrible and terrifying. And quite frankly, mind-boggling. And it really screwed with people's heads. One score, it's seriously, it's like God or somebody has something against us. You know, and running the website, I thought, okay, but football was a freaking disaster, but it was, it was always exciting. You were kind of like, how are we going to lose this time? And, that block punch against Iowa, you were just like, everybody in the world felt that. Well, shit, we're going to lose. And then we did. And I thought, okay, well, basketball saved us. There was pundits out there that said, oh, Nebraska has the best team ever. They're going to make the NCAA tournament. They have an NBA first-round pick on their team. Look at all these talented players. What could possibly go wrong? Everything! And we finished last. Tied with Minnesota. Yay. I don't think that most people in Nebraska really care about the basketball team. I know that they have loyal followers, but I think mostly what Nebraska fans would like from the basketball team is to not be embarrassing. And this season, they were embarrassing at times. I mean, they got destroyed in some games. And that happens to people, but they got destroyed a lot. And they lost a lot. And then I thought, okay, baseball. We can look forward to baseball. Picked to finish first and win the Big Ten. And then right off the bat, boom, what happens? We lose 2 weekend starters to injury. 2 starting pitchers. Bang, gone. And over the course of the season, I think we lost 5 or 6 pitchers. And as a testament to our pitching coaches and our staff, I think we finished still 4th in the Big Ten in pitching. But we didn't make the Big Ten baseball tournament for the first time in our history, I believe. And we sucked. We were terrible. I mean, there were god-awful games. We lost to Minnesota. We didn't just lose a game. We lost a series to Minnesota. And they're freaking awful. And we were bad. And it was like watching it. Literally, it was like, I felt like we were all collectively Job and the Bible, where every terrible thing just keeps happening. I questioned whether or not I should do this video, but I kind of thought, I should acknowledge it. I know I should be pumping out videos where I'm talking about who's the biggest impact players, because those will get watched more, or it's always the quarterback. I felt like I wanted to do this so that 5 years from now, when we're good, I can look back on this and laugh. God, please. I also wanted to put a stake in the ground. Because here's what I'm going to give you from the guy who coined the phrase at the beginning of last year when we lost to Illinois, the phrase, there is no hope, fuck everything, go Big Red. I'm going to give you some hope about looking forward to the future. So in football, what do we have? Well, we have a gob of new players from the transfer portal. And we have really good players coming into the program. And you look at it and you kind of go, wow, we should be able to win a lot of games with this team. And maybe we will. I know if you watch my channel and you listen to our podcast that I don't have a lot of faith in Scott Frost, but I'm also willing to give him a chance because right now, you look at our quarterbacks, running backs, everything but the offensive line potentially, we have a lot of really good players and we have a lot of potential, God, I hate that word, to win a lot of games this season. And maybe last year was like, waking up drunk in the ditch naked for us. And then where are you going to go from that? Hopefully up, because I don't know how much further bad you can get. Basketball, I do think we have the right coach in Fred Hoiberg. I made a video about that when he was retained. We still have more talented players coming in than we've ever had before. We have some big guys coming in that could help us out because that was a big deal. We have Derek Walker returning. I think basketball, can we at least not be embarrassing? We've gotten rid of some coaches. It looks like we have a little bit better retention of players returning. It's a lower bar for Fred Hoiberg. He's playing in the best conference in the nation, I'd argue. And again, like I said earlier, we don't want to. You don't have to win the Big Ten all the time. You don't have to be Michigan State. You just have to not be embarrassing, and that would be successful, and it'd be fun. And I think Fred Hoiberg's offense could be really fun to watch if it gets going. And then in baseball, well, I think we have a good coach in Will Bolt. We have a whole gob of new players coming in. I think you had the anomaly of a team that lost 5 pitchers over the course of a season, and they weren't bad pitchers. And the starters, I think everybody got caught into a bad situation, and I think baseball, more than any other sport, is probably a lot about slumping and confidence, and we didn't have the players with experience to pull us out of those ruts, like a Mojo Hagee or a Spencer Schwellenbach or a Luke Roskam even. We didn't have those guys, and sticking around and having those guys, some of the guys come back from this year where they saw what it was like to be terrible, probably will help out as we're moving forward. And there's a couple of things that I wanted to point out here, and if you stayed this long, thank you. Number one is this. You should ask yourself, and this is the biggest hope thing I can give you. You should ask yourself, why are all these players coming to Nebraska in football from the transfer portal when they could have probably gone to other better programs? Why at 4th year, 3-9, Scott Frost, how did he get these guys to come to this school? And you could say Scott Frost is a good salesperson. And maybe, that's probably something to do with it. You could say the coaching staff has something to do with it. But I think we'd be missing out on 2 things that I think are very important. Number one, 54,000 people showed up to a glorified scrimmage at the spring game. It wasn't much of a spring game, but we showed up. And I think when players see that Nebraska fans are there, I think it makes a big impact on them. And I know you could throw NIL, the name, image, and likeness stuff in there, but I think most of the stuff that surrounds all that stuff is largely bullshit because nobody knows how much players are getting played. Those contracts are private. They're not public information, and we could just make up stuff. We know they're getting paid, but I don't think that's making as huge an impact it is as we are as fans. How is Fred Hoiberg getting guys to come to a school that has no history of basketball whatsoever? Well, first of all, he's Fred Hoiberg, and he's got NBA experience. And we have fans that go to the games. I don't know how they do it, but they go. Even though we were terrible and embarrassing, they still went. And then you look at baseball. I think we probably recruit. I don't know what the statistics are in baseball recruiting because it's really weird to follow. There's baseball everywhere and all levels and farm teams in this league and that league and Cape Cod. But we have guys showing up. In Nebraska, again, is the fans show up. Nebraska every year is in the top 25 in attendance for baseball across the college spectrum. So that's fans, I think, is a huge thing. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that I hope that we all don't just give up on this stuff and stop going to games. And I'm not talking about the sellout streak. I'm talking about us sticking together in all kinds of weather. And I think that's important for our future because we know that Scott Frost next year has to win to keep his job. And Fred Hoiberg can't afford another season like he had and keep his job. Will Bolt won a Big Ten title already. He's safe. But I think the fans keep showing up. We're going to be fine no matter who our coach is. We may not be great, but this idea that Scott Frost was supposed to be some kind of savior and he's the only guy to do it should just be dismissed out of your mind. The other reason I think that players keep coming to Nebraska is because of our athletic department. Our athletic department is one of the most well-run athletic departments in the nation. And the NCAA will tell you that a lot of athletes are going pro in something other than sports. And I think it's important when parents go to a school or when some kid visits a school that they see the support that Nebraska gives them. I mean, we had the whole mental health thing that we talked about in the podcast a few weeks ago. Academic support has always been there. And I think those things are important to athletes because everybody needs something to fall back on if they get injured or they don't make the big leagues. There's one more thing I want to cover before I go. Media. Corn Nation was the only site that sent somebody in Nebraska's media to the Big Ten softball tournament. Andy Ketterson, our reporter dude, went and covered that tournament. And he was the only one, other than the Nebraska Athletic Department people, as a media person there. Corn Nation was the only one that sent from Nebraska media that sent a person to the Big Ten baseball tournament, even though we weren't in it, who covered it throughout the entire tournament. I don't even know if you saw articles about the Big Ten baseball tournament on the Omaha World Herald website. I'm not saying this to tout our coverage. I'm saying this because you should be kind of concerned about the level of media coverage that Nebraska fans are getting out of their sports. Lee Enterprises owns the Omaha World Herald and Lincoln Journal-Star, and they are cutting those staffs to shreds, and they're not paying for stuff. And I think that's a damn shame. And that is one of the reasons also why I wanted to make this video, because we're going to come back and see where that is in 5 years. Is media coverage going to get any better? I don't think it is. I think somebody's going to have to fill in that gap, and I'm not sure who it is. Who's going to cover Nebraska prep sports across the state? That's a big issue. If you're, a town where you want to have kids play softball or baseball or lacrosse, I don't know if there's lacrosse in Nebraska, or soccer, or anything. Who's going to cover this stuff going forward? And I think that's a big question, given that right now the Omaha and Lincoln papers have, for all effective purposes, they're merged. And we probably should come up with a new name for them. It could be derogatory, I don't know. I look forward to your comments. But let me know where you are with all this stuff. It's almost June. Or it is June. Please subscribe, and hope you're doing well. Go Big Red.